Hi guys! Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I am Kayla and this is my little book corner. I hope this is entertaining. I'm excited to just dive into a conversation, one book at a time with all of you guys, instead of talking to my walls and the people that I see.
It's getting weird, but I still need to get this watch.
Instead of just talking to myself and my dog as if she talks back. Because she hates me at this point. No, it's getting bad. It's getting to the point where she started to bark at me when I'm talking to myself because she thinks I'm going insane. So by putting a camera in front of me and talking to a giant lens, apparently the world deems that as sanity. And I'm very excited to be under that umbrella of safety. Okay, take two. Hi, I'm Kayla, and if you saw the title of this video, I bet you can guess that I am getting back into reading, and I'm starting with my very first video on my new channel. It's been a really long time since I've been energized to read books, the way that I feel energized right now, and it's been trickling back into my system for the entirety of 2023. When I was a lot younger, I used to read all the time. This bookshelf is nothing. And Kayla here, just popping in to say I was kind of dragging it on this part a little bit. I haven't read in a while at the pace that I did when I was a kid, but I still read way more than the average person. So I don't want you guys to be confused. I haven't been reading one book a year for the last 10 years or anything like that. But for the last 4 years, really 3 years. For the last 3 years post-grad, I just have not been reading at the level that I was reading at before, which was somewhere closer to between 30 to 50 books a year, which is still even not as high as it was when I was a kid, but right now I've been reading around 20 books a year. Not nothing. Just not anything to write home about. But now I'm actually excited about books because I'm excited about print books again, which is reinvigorating my want to actually go through my TBR and read books and get back into Goodreads and track my reading. I'm super fascinated by the act of reading again, which I think also means that I'm just doing very well mental health wise now too. So I can live in different worlds because I feel safe in my own and it's not just escapism. So I hope that makes more sense. Okay. Continue. But something kind of happened with the transition from going from reading print books when I was a kid to reading books on Kindle and Amazon when I was a teen, to starting my early 20s reading almost exclusively online. And I'm not at all saying those are not books, those are books, but there's kind of a different vibe and a feeling. And I've spent the last 5 years reading almost exclusively on my phone. And I look around my beautiful apartment that I'm so thankful for, but I don't see enough of me reflected in it because I hold so much of the most intimate parts of myself in my books. So I'm on a journey to get back into print, and I had no idea people were having this much fun reading on YouTube. And I had no idea, and this is gonna sound so silly now that I think about it, but I had no idea that I wasn't alone in the kind of books that I liked. Typically for me, I would sit in a classroom, they'd ask if anyone was a reader, let's say college classroom, they'd ask if anyone was a reader, people would raise their hands, they'd ask what books they were reading, and it always sounded like it was coming straight off Oprah's book club. And that's great, and I'm sure those are great books, but I'm not really a lit fic kind of girl. I like genre, I like high stakes, I like fantasy, I like sci-fi, I like romance, I like spicy books, I like smutty books. In the last few years, I've read over 250 books, but most of them Oprah and the New York Times wouldn't know exists. So I've been pretty removed from the publishing game for a while, and I didn't realize that they had caught up almost completely to my reading taste. And the book that really changed all of that was this one right here, Song of Achilles. So I have some of my favorite book talk, booktube recs from this year up here because maybe it's because I was able to read this book on a train in the countryside of England with my best friend this summer, but it's so special. And when she handed it to me and I read the back of it and I realized it was a mythology, fiction, fantasy series that's queer, I was very scared because I felt depending on how this book is written, the themes that are in this book, the tropes that are in this book, it's gonna feel like somebody is walking into my house and judging the books.
The ghetto.
And I was really nervous, honestly, which sounds crazy, but I was so nervous to read this book. And then I read it and I fucking fell in love. I think Miller's a genius, and I'm sure you all already knew that. And I've been searching to feel this way again since. So I've been reading through so many good recommendations, and I've been so excited. I've been following creators like Cindy and Larry and Just Allie, who I think is launching like a publishing platform or something. This space is so cool, and I am really excited to join the conversation because I feel like that's the best way to get involved in a community, is to show yourself. So I hope to take you guys on this path with me. We're doing a haul today because there's some books that are really on my radar. I want to read Shatter. I want to read that Hades and Persephone romance. That sounds really good. I want to read some of the big fantasy pieces that are coming out right now. What's that one called that everybody and their mother's reading this week? It feels like. It sounds like I'm gonna love it. It's like Harry Potter, but they're dragons. Oh, The Fourth Wing. I want to read Fourth Wing. I want to read This Woven Kingdom. What else do I have in here? I want to read A Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR. Like, that sounds amazing. I heard somebody said it's just about like big dick fairies. It's just, I can't believe I'm going to say that on the internet, but we're going to say a lot worse things on this channel, so I gotta get used to it if I'm going to actually say the shit that goes on in my mind. I don't want to read the Mindfuck series, even though those covers look horrendous. Like, come on guys, we can be real about that. And this is not going to be a very negative channel, but we can be real about that. And I want to finish some of these fantasy series that I've started because I have a knack for starting a new fantasy series and not finishing it. I know, it's terrible. Honestly, I think the last time I finished a fantasy series, like a print fantasy series, was maybe, I don't know, Hunger Games, which is terrible. I started Shadow and Bone. I've started the Crave series. I've started Red Queen. It's just, yeah, some of these go on for a while, and my very ADHD brain is like, new, and I start something else and then never return to it. So I do love a good one-off because when it's done, you're done. But there's so many books out there right now. For me to just focus on one book is kind of crazy, right? So I'm really excited to go and see if I can find some of those titles in my local bookstores. I'm gonna go to Barnes and Nobles and this really cool bookstore called Skylight here in LA. And then I'm gonna go to maybe one other one, like a thrift bookstore. So we will see about that. Hopefully I find some of them, and whatever I don't find, I'm probably just gonna buy on Amazon. And then I will come back to you and show you everything that I got. Okay, let's go. It's 3 o'clock. I have, and I really hope we're at a good angle. I have no idea what you guys are looking at. Like, my camera is not one of those fancy ones with the viewfinders that are like very good. So this feels very intense. You feel very intimately close to me right now. So I'm just hoping this is like a vibe. But we're headed to Barnes and Nobles right now. I think the only one is at the Grove that's close to me. I hope I don't crash the car or fully lose my camera in the process. Please let me out, okay? Oh, sir, I'm coming. I don't know how people don't fully crash their cars. Oh, here it goes. I don't know how people are getting these things to stay still. Like, it's pretty stuck in there for if I'm not moving. But if I start moving, it's just a poor little tripod. It's doing what it can. I'm so over this. My camera just fell. Yes, it did. And literally turned on my windshield wipers. And the people next to me started watching me. I don't like this feeling. So I'm gonna say goodbye for now. And I'm gonna see y'all at Barnes and Nobles. Okay, I just got to the mall. I don't know if I can film in front of these people. I know I live in LA, but I have never seen anybody vlog. I just drove around and tried to find the most private parking spot, and like there's no such thing as a private parking spot in a public garage. So there's still like multiple people about. Like there's people across from me that just got into their car and they're now watching me because we're both staring in each other's direction. So this is a very awkward moment in my life. Yep. Okay, let's go. For some reason, I could not find the fantasy section of this bookstore, and I was about to start panicking until I found it on the second floor in the corner, and yeah, exactly that emotion. An entire Sarah J. Maas wall. And check out this beautiful collector's edition of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Guys, would you believe this is the last book in the entire store? So either this is fate or I just spent a lot of money on a book. Okay guys, just got back in the car. That was a lot. That was a lot for a lot of different reasons that I'm gonna tell you. But I got the goods and also the goods. I got a brown sugar shaken oat milk espresso. And whoever this they them was that made this coffee, they knew what they were doing. I forgot that I'm going to one of the most popular Barnes & Nobles like in the entire United States. So even on a Friday midday, maybe especially on a Friday midday, it's popping in there. Popping. Moms, dads, sisters, dads with children, people on dates, everybody. And some teenage boys did heckle me. I feel like you gotta get through that to do this. Because I was honestly like kind of panicking at first, because I was like so nervous that the people in Barnes & Nobles were like annoyed at me. And then I had like the best conversation with the checkout girl when I was leaving. She was so sweet, and her name is Taylor. Shout out Taylor. I'm putting her like TikTok somewhere on screen. Please go follow her. She's amazing. She wrote me this entire list of the order that I'm supposed to read these books in. Like, this is dedication. She was so excited when I showed her that I was buying the book. Like, they all were. That was probably the most fun checkout process I've ever had at Barnes & Noble. I said it right that time. That's all I'm going to tell you. You have to see the rest in the haul in a second. I thought I was going to have time to go to Skylight. I don't think that's going to happen because it's already 5:08 and I desperately have to go and get some stuff for a friend's birthday party, and I got to go to Target and also Hot Topic. Very specific. So we'll see. Hi guys, welcome back. I survived that haul. I hope you enjoyed it. Honestly, it was fun. At first, I was super nervous about going into Barnes & Nobles, but it's LA. I should have known that. Nobody would care. Nobody cared at all. And the girls inside of Barnes & Nobles were literally the sweetest people ever. So now let's get to the books that I've chosen for my haul. I am so excited to show you guys these books. To start with, the book that you guys all saw already, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I mean, one of the highest rated books on Goodreads, on Storygraph, on anything that you read on. If you can see, I've literally already started it. I started it last night and read it a bit today too. So I'm pretty much done. I've got about 120 pages left. Really good, easy read. Yeah, I'll give you guys my full thoughts at the end of the month with the rest of my wrap up. I'm not in love with A Court of Thorns and Roses yet, so definitely let me know if the love is coming, because I know that this is like a slow build. Even the girly at Barnes & Noble said that this was like the slowest book, and just to get through this and get to the next one. So I'm going to take her advice on that, read this last 120 pages, hope it gets more interesting in the next few books, because right now it feels kind of like a romance with a fantasy subplot, if that makes sense. But I love the book. I love the cover. I was able to get this beautiful collector's edition because it was the only one they had available in the entire store. That lets you know how popular this book is, of course. So really beautiful. Love having a beautiful, well-written book on my shelf anyway. Definitely can see why it's so appealing to especially new fantasy readers, or maybe people who don't usually read fantasy, because it's not complicated or hard to follow.
Hey, what's up, money? You got a problem? What you looking at my ass for? Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this? You want some of this, punk?
Next, I have Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. I am so excited to read this book. It's 3.8 stars on Goodreads. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It felt kind of spooky and, dangerous and dark romance. So I thought, good pick. Super excited. Hella long series. But hey, never a better time than now to start. And I love that the back says, the moon understands what it means to be human, uncertain, alone, and cratered by imperfections. No one understands why Juliet's touch is fatal. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Like, I think this is going to be a good one. And I also already have This Woven Kingdom, so I'm excited to see her writing in this book as well. Sure, I'm gonna love it. Next up, I was able to get my hands on the Hades and Persephone romance Touch of Darkness. I had to get this one on Amazon because I could not find it in stores, but it was super quick and fast. Super excited to read this one. It's a 3.8 stars on Goodreads as well. Seems, I'm not sure if I would say enemies to lovers, but
Bruh.
I love forced proximity, made an offer you can't refuse, anything that has to do with Greek mythology. I've read a lot of Greek mythology based romance in my time, so I think this one is going to stack up just as well. I love these characters. I love how they interact with each other in other books too, so super excited. I love the personification of the gods and goddesses. It seems like that's going to happen in this book. They seem very much like regular people, just living on earth, so this is going to be a fun one. And it just sounds very forbidden love, the underworld, Hades, darkness, definitely gives me October vibes. And this is also a 3.8 star on Goodreads. I tend to really like books that are between a 3.5 to 4.5 star, to be honest with you. Most dark romance does sit somewhere between that realm. So I find that most of the books that I love are about a 3.8 star. So I'm excited about this one. I've heard a lot of good things from fellow booktubers as well, so I'm really excited to check that one out. Okay, moving on. The next book I picked up, this was also an Amazon pickup because I didn't see it in my Barnes & Nobles, is The Binding by Bridget Collins. Bridget Collins is a great writer, so I'm really excited about reading this book. And this one just gave dark academia vibes. Imagine a world where you can lock your deepest, darkest secrets, traumas, horrible memories, crimes in a book and never remember them yourself, right? You get to live ignorance is bliss. And then one day, the guy responsible for locking your memories, traumas, and deep dark secrets in little books finds a book with his name on it. This is so fun, so dark academia. Yeah, it's great. A rich gothic entertainment that explores what books have trapped in them and reminds us the power of storytelling. One of the reviews on the back. I'm so excited about this one. Next up, we have a DNF. And honestly, it feels a little bit ingenuous to call this a DNF because I only got about, let me tell you, 16 pages in and just could never get past it. But it's A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I mean, this book has me written all over it. Not now, puppy. Dark academia, school for violent magic teenagers who battle it to the death to survive, and apparently along the way, a love subplot. I should love this book. I should eat this shit up. This book should be something that I devour. It's small, it's short, it's dark, it's magical. I should have read this book in a weekend, and yet I simply could not get past page 16. It just felt a little too dense, a little too dense in the lore and not the story. At 16 pages in, I still couldn't figure out why I cared about the main character, who she was, and what we were doing here, which was a little bit annoying. But I am going to challenge myself to finish it. I've seen some varying reviews and dissent for this book across BookTube and TikTok, so maybe it's not just me. I'm gonna give it another try. I have another DNF that's kind of dark on here as well. Okay, so looking through some of the reviews, it seems like a lot of the dissent that's happened on BookTok and BookTube, as usual, has absolutely nothing to do with the book and something to do with, I don't know, PC culture. I'm also excited to add my voice to a lot of these conversations that happen online with books right now because, I don't know, I'm reading through comments about invalidating POC, biracial POC's experiences about not feeling connected to their culture, which is such a duh thing that actually happens to people. So I have no idea. I'm excited to read it and give you guys my thoughts and let you know if I am horribly triggered by any of the things that happen in this book, though I likely will not be. Right now, I am just triggered by the fact that it is so boring until page 16 that I cannot even get into the lore. That is all. The next book I have on my list is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and what a better time than to read some dark academia, school, magical, dark, magical, murderous romance, question mark? I think there's a romance subplot. I mean, I cannot wait to be sitting in a New York City subway reading this book. It's just a perfect vibe. And let's be honest, a good part about reading is also the aesthetic of it. I love it all. I have actually put off reading this book for months. I got this back in April when Barnes & Noble's had that huge sale. But it's so similar to the book that I'm reading right now, except for the fact that this takes place in a college, Yale, and mine takes place in a boarding school in Richmond, Virginia. There in the abstract is not much of a difference. So now that my outline's done and I'm a few chapters in, I feel like I'm finally ready to truly read this book without fear that I'm going to start siphoning. So this book is rated a 4.4 stars on Goodreads. Of course, it's a 4-star read, and has 262,000 reviews. So enough said. It's also a series, which I didn't realize, which must have been why it was so prevalently being pushed earlier this year, because book 2 came out this year. Let me know if any of you guys have actually read the full series as it stands right now, the duology, and if you feel like it's a good one. Sorry, my camera died, and I hope you guys are back at a good angle. And if you're not, I sincerely apologize in advance. Okay, so moving on, book number 8, Fourth Wing. Super excited to read this book. It seems like it's going to be great. It has so much of my favorite fantasy lore, and it just seems like a really nice book to get cozy with this month. This is a pretty big book. I mean, we're looking at like it's almost a 500 pager. And when I was at Barnes & Noble's, the lovely girlies told me to make sure to tell you guys to be on the lookout for any events near your local Barnes & Noble's in your cities with this author, Rebecca Yarros, because they're going to be having some exclusive signings coming up in November. And also, this is amazing timing to get in to the series and not have to actually wait for the next book. Hey, now my last 2 picks for my TBR are starting off with a DNF that I am actually upset that I ended up DNFing, because I think the writing is phenomenal. I think that the style of the book is phenomenal. I just ended up hitting a slump genuinely midway through because I didn't love the love plot. And that book is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and C.L. Herman. I love that it's a co-write. I think these books are often very strong when they're done well together, because you get both of the authors' kind of skill sets and strengths get to play together really well in the book. It's a wonderful book that's kind of reminiscent of Hunger Games, only a bit darker, and with a genuine character study of each character that's taking place in these Blood Moon games. So I'll read you the back. It says, every generation, at the coming of the Blood Moon, 7 families in the remote city of Ilvernath each name a champion to compete in a secret tournament to the death. The prize, exclusive control over a hidden wellspring of high magic, the most powerful resource in the world, one thought long depleted. But this year, a scandalous tell-all book has exposed the tournament and thrust the 7 new champions into the worldwide spotlight. The book also granted them valuable information previous champions never had, insight into the other families' strategies and weaknesses. And most important, it gave them a choice: accept their fate or rewrite their legacy. Either way, this is a story that must be penned in blood. I mean, come on. And truly, when I tell you the lore is amazing, the smallness of the story, the focused nature of the story is wonderful. The 2 brothers that the story starts out with, I mean, their story is genuinely heartbreaking. And there are elements of this book that I won't spoil if you haven't read it that genuinely took my breath away and made me go, oh my god, shit is getting real. So it's really lovely. It just seemed to lull a bit for me because the love storyline, the love subplot, the romance subplot, if you will, seemed to beg me to respect it without earning it, which in other words just means it came a little too quickly, in my opinion. I didn't love either of the characters by the time that the romance subplot came, so I in turn didn't like their romance. It was very uninteresting for me, and I found myself almost wanting to just completely skip the chapters that featured them, which sucked because they were 2 of the most interesting characters. They seemed like they were going to be headed that direction, and then when they came together, it felt very, very flat for me. If you've read the book, maybe you know what I'm talking about. I would love to hear your kind of thoughts, feelings, opinions in the comments if you have any about the book. But I'm gonna go back and give it a good read because it's gotten great reviews. I love the writing. I love the characters. I've recommended it to so many people based off the writing alone, and I'm probably just being like a little bit of a bitch about the romance subplot. So I'm gonna go back in and give it another shot. Last but certainly not least, this book may not be that exciting for you guys, but it's so exciting for me because, drumroll please, it is the gigantic second book to the Crave series, Crush. I love these books by Tracy Wolff. You might call them the Twilight lookalike books. Look, hear me out. Hear me out. I know people have their thoughts. However, I don't want to compare these books to Twilight or Stephenie Meyer's or anything of the sort. I think that aside from the cover, they're pretty different. And I read Twilight so long ago, it would be genuinely hard to do a real review in comparison, and I don't want to. I will say, halfway through the first book, Crush, I found myself kicking my feet under my covers like a giggly, giddy little schoolgirl, looking this author up on Amazon, being so excited that I could read so many things from her, and immediately ordering this book, adding it to my Amazon cart, and overnight shipping it to me for the next day. Okay, that is what you call an ultimate comfort read. This is how I want my book to make people feel. I do not care to argue with anybody about the relevance or to qualify this book in any way. It just was a really juicy, really fun vampire book that's filled with vampires and dragons and teenage boys that are hot with powers that they can't even control that could level an entire universe. You know what I mean? Like, this is some good shit, okay? Tracy Wolff knew what she was doing here, and this book is gigantic. This is huge. I think this is the biggest one on my list for this month, and I've got a lot of 400-page hitters, so wish me luck. I better spend a lot of time cozy and inside if I want to get through this TBR. This book, ladies and gentlemen, please, a moment of silent prayer, is 684 pages long. 700 pages. I like to round up. Oh my god. But it goes by so fast. That first book was 500 pages, and I read it in a night and the next day. I want to say like 5, 6, maybe 7 hours, but like straight. Like, I didn't blink, I didn't eat, I didn't leave the bed. I just read, which I do a lot when the books are like just juicy and delicious and good. Usually with romance. A really good fantasy, it take me like 2 days to read, but with romance, it just gets juicy and tingly, and I just will read it in one setting. And this had a good amount of both, so I'm hoping that the follow-up is just as good, because the cliffhanger that you are left on in the first book is like amazing. It's looking pretty good. I'm very excited about this haul. It feels like very early fall, very, dark academia base, I would say. Like, a good half of these books take place in a school institution of some sort. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this video. Wish me luck. I hope I read at least 70% of these books, but you will be here to keep me accountable. And I'll also be updating you guys on my reads and what I'm thinking over on my TikTok, which is hello.kayla. And I'm also going to be filming a couple of book reviews for these different books. I'm going to be doing a fun little game with them that I can't wait to unveil to you guys. And I honestly can't believe it doesn't exist on YouTube yet. So stay tuned, wait for those videos. They're so exciting. Spoiler alert ahead of time, we will be discussing plot in a good amount of these book review book club videos. I'm going to label those book review videos book club picks. They'll have spoiler alerts all over the videos, the thumbnails, and the intros, so you will not be taken off guard. But I think those videos will be really fun for those of us that have all read the same book to actually be able to like not worry about spoiling the book for people and genuinely get into it in the comment section and throughout the video, what we thought about the book, the plot, the subplots, the lore, and everything in between. I am so excited for this. Okay, thank you guys for spending time with me doing my TBR today. Leave your TBRs down in the comment section below, because that is how I get most of my book picks, from recommendations from this entire community. But I wish you guys the best and happy reading.